What I'm gathering here is periwinkle, also known as vinca, and these grow everywhere on our property. And not only are they a really pretty low maintenance ground cover, but they also have some pretty amazing properties that can be used medicinally, that can be beneficial topically. And I can't believe I have pretty much an endless supply of them here in my home. And what I'm going to be doing with these guys is dehydrating them, using them as decoration. I'm wondering if this bright purple color will carry through into the dried, dehydrated blooms. And I'm excited to show you all of that. I'm pretty sure the previous owner planted this periwinkle, this vinca, intentionally, but this stuff grows wild everywhere here in the PNW, the Pacific Northwest. Some might even call them invasive. There seems to be a very fine line between what's invasive and what's accepted. We are kind of taking over the garden here and other parts of our yard, so it's something that we have to clean up. A part of me just wants to let these guys grow and grow so that we enjoy them. Can you guys see this? This is part of a giant bamboo shrub gone wild that we also have to take care of. There's a lot of cleaning up that we have to do in this yard, in this property in general. But we're not in any rush. We're doing it slowly but surely. And I know that over the years, it's just going to keep getting better and better. I don't know if you remember the bulbs that I planted in December, but they are coming up in this little patch here, and I'm so happy about that. I kind of forget what I planted here. I know that they were some kind of perennial. I also think I planted this. I don't know what it is. I should really start to mark the areas that I've planted things in with the name of the plant so that I'm not always guessing what's popping up. And these are a nice surprise. These beautiful hyacinths, they're coming in. This beautiful bright pink one, and then back there we have a really intense pink and a lovely purple one back here. The hellebores have continued to bloom. Some are dying back now, like this guy, but back here where they're a little bit more sheltered, they're still amazing looking. How pretty these guys are. And this patch of hellebores are sitting under, I think it's a rhodie bush, but I'm not quite sure because the leaves are a little pointier than that tree, which is definitely a rhodie bush. So I don't know exactly what this is. It looks like there were some flowers that had come in and they're all dried up now. So anyone who lives in the PNW, Washington area that can help me identify this really large tree, let me know in the comments. And over here we have more beautiful periwinkle coming in. It has really grown wild in this area. There's a huge patch of it over here. And over here, just the prettiest patch of hellebores and some wild daffodils back there, which you will see a lot where I live. Just these clumps of daffodils. The squirrels get to the gardens and bury them in places and forget about them, so they just pop up here and there. So this whole corner is a mess. This will be a big thing to clean up. And when we do, I would love to save these daffodils, these hellebores, and as much of the vinca as possible. But I don't know how we're going to be able to do that without some casualties. But this big corner here is a project. Over on this patch, though, you can see some periwinkle that isn't purple. It's really pretty white color, but it's still periwinkle. It's still vinca. And this is what I mean when I say that I have pretty much an endless supply of it here. So it'd be awesome if I could incorporate it into my soap making and into my products. Good morning, guys, to a gorgeous, bright, sunny day. I was able to dehydrate those flowers, but then I was looking around my backyard and I discovered another amazing flower. Violets! Look! Aren't these so pretty? They're so delicate, and there is a whole patch of them. Everywhere where there's purple, that is a tiny little violet. And guess what? I'm going to harvest as many of these tiny flowers as I can to use as a decorative topping for May's Soap of the Month. These flowers are super small. Like, look at my hand next to it for comparison. And I have tried to harvest these flowers before and dehydrate them, but they shrink down really, really small. So I've been continuously picking them and dehydrating them to get enough to cover the soap that I want to make, which is about 24 pounds of soap. Not only are violets beautiful and they contain properties known to help with skin, but they're also edible. You can dry these out using a dehydrator like I'm going to do, or you can press them between books to also dry them out and create a beautiful pressed flower. In terms of eating, you can use these flowers to lightly sprinkle over pastries, and you can even sugar them to make a beautiful, delicate candy. Even though I've been picking these violets for the past couple of days and always with a pretty full basket, I feel like every time I come back to this particular patch, more pop up. I don't know if these violets are here because they're wild or because the previous owner just threw some seeds out, but I'm so thankful that they're growing here because they really do make a very cheerful pop of purple in my lawn. So here's my violets harvest, and I got a pretty good amount of them, and there's still so many buds that haven't opened yet. So I think I have a good supply, but this should be good for now. I'm really excited to see just what comes out of this garden the more Kayla and I work on it. The potential here is just, there's so much potential to come out of this little piece of space that Kayla and I purchased. These are just such a pretty flower, look at that. We also have these flowers coming in. These are an ornamental bush, and they smell gorgeous. The smell coming from these particular flowers, so nice. And we do have to tame this crazy beast of a bamboo thicket. I'm trying to think if there's things I can use with the bamboo stuff. And of course, just so much vinca down here, down there. Things are slowly revealing themselves though. And I do plan on showing you guys more of the garden now that it's getting warmer and things are coming out and things are blooming and blossoming. It's exciting times. So I left these out in the sun for just a little bit, not on purpose, and they did kind of dry out a tad. What you really want to do is to not do that and start dehydrating them when they're at their best. They're a little wilty right now, which is my fault, but they'll still be good. This is the mat that came with my dehydrator. I've already done 2 of the violets. You can see how tiny they look already. When it comes to prepping the flowers, I remove the stems, and that's pretty much it. Violets are incredibly delicate. You can see it's already starting to just wilt on me there. They're just so fragile. So you want to just handle them with care. Sorry about this big light that's just shining in your face. It's on because I'm also taking some social media footage at the same time. The reason why I didn't get to these flowers right away was because I started exploring my property and then got super distracted looking at everything. I found a few more plants that I am very excited about. Time got away from me a little bit. It's a really warm day, so whenever the weather is good and the sun is out, you have to get outside out here. Otherwise, you turn into a vampire. Tomorrow it's going to start raining again. Just have to take advantage of every beautiful sunny day that you've got. One flower that I'm really curious about dehydrating, and I want to do this sooner rather than later because they're dying now, are all those hellebores on my property. They're huge, like big flowers, and I don't know if they're going to keep their color. So that's a fun experiment that I am very excited to try. There are a lot of orders on the board right now, like a ton, and I don't know if I have the time because I'm going to have to restock a few things. I got a wholesale order that I have to work on as well. So April is shaping up to be a super busy month. It's moments like this, like right now, where all I'm doing is cutting stems off of flowers. This little mundane task is so calming, and I'm very grateful that I have tasks like this right now because it does help me to just slow down and have a moment of relaxation. Here's my progress so far with the vinca, the periwinkle, and I'm making good progress on the violets, although they're getting so hard to cut. I'm just going to keep going until we get to the very end. So we have our flowers finally done, trimmed and prepped. I tried to have the flowers be in a single layer and also facing upwards so that their flower faces are facing the fan. That helps them to dry flatter. And I will show you what they look like once their dehydrating is complete. Good morning, everybody. Today is soap making day, and I'm going to be putting one of those giant bowls to the test because I have to measure out over 4,000 grams of tallow into this guy. And my little bowls, little, I thought they were so big at the time, but they're just not going to be able to hold that much. I'm at the stage where I have to measure out my tallow. I think this is the 16 quart bowl. I got two 16 quart bowls and two 20 quart bowls. I might need to scale up my scale at some point too, because I can barely see over and underneath this bowl to the number. I will probably be posting this video about a month later from when I'm actually filming it, because this is the soap of the month soap that I'm making. So here it is. Oh, 4,000 grams of tallow, or basically 10 pounds of tallow. That's all gonna go into my soap. For the soap of the month, I like to play around with ingredients. So I usually try a different recipe each month, like a slight variance on what I've already done. So in this case, this is a higher tallow percentage than I've ever worked with. So I'm just curious to see how it goes, if it's gonna be a disaster, if I'm gonna like the soap. And I take my soap of the monthers with me along for that ride. I write up a blog post about everything, and they all get the soap at the beginning of the month. So this is May's. They're going to get the soap the first week of May, and they also know what the soap is before anyone else does, which is really cool. And they also get the recipe. I make enough for my patrons, and whatever is left over, I put up on my website. I am contemplating starting a subscription model. The only reason why I haven't done it yet is because Shopify usually need an app that you pay extra for on top of what you're already paying every month. I think I'm getting to the point where the cost will justify the means. Did I say that right? The cost is going to be worth it for me in the end, because I think there's enough people that purchase these things over and over again, but I need to see more consistency. It's really hard for me to pay extra for anything. And that's how it is in my real life too, by the way. All right, let's get this tallow melting. I hope it fits into my presso pot. My presso pot is suddenly looking really small in comparison to the tallow that's in this bowl. But yeah, 16 quart stainless steel bowls for the win. Definitely would not have been able to fit 10 pounds of tallow into the bowls I currently have. Today is the day that I try my big immersion blender for the first time. So exciting! I've never used anything that huge. I'm a little nervous, I'm a little scared. When I bought the thing, the picture was so deceiving. It had this chef guy holding it up like this and putting the immersion blender into this, container of food or something. And it looked manageable from that picture. So when it arrived, I was incredibly shocked by how much bigger it actually was. Took my breath away a little bit. There was a really helpful comment that talked about the things that you don't really think about when you're trying to scale your business. It's not just about buying bigger bowls. It's also about how strong are you? Can you lift things like that? And what equipment do you need to help you facilitate this kind of weight? And something that I have been noticing when it comes to my making as a soap maker is that I do get tired. My back does start to hurt. You guys can't see it. I'm wearing some really supportive shoes down below. And I'm also trying to strengthen my core, because if you don't do these kinds of things, there is a high possibility that you will injure yourself. And that's not good, because I'm the only employee in my company. And if my only employee injures themselves, then there's no more soap being made. And that is why I love this community. I love the people that watch me. I love that it's a mixture of beginners and seasoned soap makers, people that have watched other soap makers. So the suggestions are always coming in all the time, and I love that. I love hearing the experiences that you guys have, not just with soap making, but also with beekeeping, with chicken raising, with homesteading, All these things I'm super, super duper interested in. And I probably already announced it by now in another video, but I am the maker of the month for April for Brambleberry. That is insane. I remember when I first started watching Soap Queen over 8 years ago, trying to learn how to make soap. There's no way I would have ever imagined myself being honored in that way, and I do consider it a big honor. Overall, if you're thinking of learning how to make soap, not only do they have those ingredients, but they have a lot of projects. They make the barrier to entry to soap making very, very low. If you wanted to, you can get those melt and pour bases where you just chop up soap, melt it, add fragrance oil, add color, and you have soap basically after pouring it into a mold. And they helped me get to where I am today, 100%. Okay, I need to show you guys something, a tool that I've waited way too long to buy, and that is this. If you work with a lot of buckets, like I do, they are so hard to open. I'm surprised I haven't seriously hurt myself trying to wrangle these buckets open with my hands. But what this does, and I got this from Uline, is it goes under the lip of the bucket and it helps you open the bucket without you having to struggle bust it open. And what this does is it gets underneath the lip of the lid and it gives you that leverage to pop it open so you're not just using your hands and potentially hurting yourself. Game changer. And this was just $10 too, and I waited way too long to buy it. All right, now that I have this coconut oil open, I also have to start getting it out. There are the violets. I think they look super cute. They're really tiny, but they still have their violet shape. And this is the color palette that I'm gonna try to achieve with the soap, a purple, white, and yellow. And here are the Vinca, and they also shrunk to be incredibly tiny, but they kept their beautiful purple color. And add some clay. Okay, that was incredibly difficult, I'm not gonna lie. But we're gonna move on, we're gonna do our first color. So I have my first color here, it's gonna be a purple. I'm gonna put half of this beautiful purple in here because I'm kind of working in batches. I have the other half of the purple. So far, the batter is performing well. And that's something that I expect from Tallow soap, a well-behaving batter. But as we know, things can change any second. So I'm still gonna work as fast as I can, at least for this first layer. I actually created 2 different shades of purple, so I'm just gonna pour it in and see how that affects the soap. It's still very, very fluid right now, which is very interesting. All right, here are the next 2 colors. We have a really pretty white, this is just titanium dioxide. I used to really love putting in as many colors as possible in soap, but ever since the last cherry blossom soap, I realized you can just create such a pretty soap with max 3 colors. So I'm gonna try to stick with that. And then I have a really beautiful gold color. I get a lot of my micas from Nurture Soap and Mad Micas. If you guys are curious, I found that their micas are the best in terms of color, in terms of how true it is to what you see on the website, to how it comes to you, and also how that color looks in soap. And we all know that soap can change micas. And I haven't had that happen with any of the micas that I've used from those 2 sources. My batter is still incredibly fluid. That is good news. Love that. Very, very fluid still. It is starting to get stiffer though. You can see peaks and valleys rising, which is always a good sign. You guys getting violets from this color palette? I know. First set those swirls. Sometimes I lose track of where the lobes are. Here. I have been doing a really good job of keeping this swirl to the middle of the soap. Okay, this is accelerating at a really great pace. I think I'll be able to do my textured tops nicely. And for my fragrance oil blend, I am using Lilac Prosecco by Kulig Aromatique and a few other fragrances too. And the smell's divine. It smells like lilacs. It smells like there's some sweetness there, kind of a bit of a honey, like a lavender honey almost. It's magical. It smells so good. I like to do a few little test ridges along the edges. If I don't think it's textury enough, I will go back. And I don't know if it's textury enough for me, at least in the beginning. It's starting to, now that I'm getting to the other end of the soap batter. But this is a little flat for me. I don't know if you guys can see that. I love texturing my soap tops. I know it doesn't really make a difference, but oh my goodness, I love doing it. It just, it's so satisfying. See here, I just want this to be a little chunkier. Here, you're definitely not textured enough. You're so flat. Want some more oomph to my soap tops, okay? Soap on top. We've been doing some gardening today because it's such a beautiful day in Washington. It's warm and sunny. So we were doing some gardening. We got our chickens finally. We moved them into their coop. We definitely found what I think is a camellia. The previous owner told us that there was one, so we found it, which is so nice. Camellia is one of my favorite flowers. It smells so good. There's a fragrance oil by Brambleberry that I love called Camellia Sugar. If you guys don't have that fragrance oil, you gotta try it. If you're into fragrance oils, that is. My cherry blossom soap was probably one of the best looking soaps I've ever made, but this might be one of the best smelling soaps I've ever made. Oh, this is a perfect swirly top texturing consistency. So here is the finished soap. I did decide not to add the periwinkle, just to leave it with the little violets, because I think they were perfect. I didn't need more than that. And the swirls turned out perfect. Everything about this soap I loved. The whole process and the scent, oh my gosh. If you are lilac fans, this is a good soap. It smells divine. And I cannot wait to cut into it. So I will be back tomorrow and show you what this looks like on the inside, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be lovely. Hey guys, it is the next morning, and here's a soap ready to be cut. It looks so, so beautiful. I cannot wait to see what it looks like on the inside. Here it is. Such a pretty soap already. I cannot wait to cut into her. I think it's going to be good. So to cut this big guy into loaves that I can cut into bars, I use this log splitter by Custom Craft Tools. This is the Caterpillar, and I'll have a link to that down below. This guy works really, really good, but I was always a little bit annoyed how this part of the cutter, the wire part, is so loose. Well, luckily, Custom Craft Tools now has this guard that will keep the wire in place just like that as I'm cutting, so I don't have to check 5 million times, because I was literally, every time a new log was cut, I always looked just to make sure. And while it only takes a second to make sure, that's still precious time you can use to do something else. This upgrade is only $10, a huge lifesaver, because this wire is not going anywhere. Is this the right way to, oh, that's another thing you gotta check. See how I almost cut this like this? That would have been a huge disaster. Let me flip you over. Another tip, make sure that you are cutting the logs in the way that it's supposed to go. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Look at this. Wow. All right, the last 2 loaves. Here they are. The beautiful logs of Lilac Violet soap. Here's the last soap from that loaf. Beautiful. And it even has a violet on top. So here are all the cut soaps, and I have soaps over here that I reserve for the sample bars. They're all the end pieces, and they're kind of a little wonky, but they still have a good swirl to them. And when it comes to the Caterpillar, I don't just cut the full-size bars with it. I also use this guy to cut my sample bars. All I have to do is bring the wire lower to how wide I want my sample bars to be, and it'll cut it. So I'm just going to lock in that wire so it doesn't move. And I'll take 3 of those bars. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna move them this way. Just gonna push them forward. And that's gonna cut 6 sample bars all at once. Isn't that neat? I'm not sponsored in any way by Custom Craft Tools. I just really like this Caterpillar cutter a lot. And it really makes cutting my soap very easy. But these sample bars, I used to position them and then cut them from the top down, but the results were always not great. Figured I'm gonna start cutting these guys like I do with my big loaves, and it worked out perfectly. The sample size bars are coming out a lot more consistent. With all of the extra soap that I get in my pouring pitchers, on my tools, I like to save all of that. And what I've been doing is making these hand soaps using the Monstera mold by Brambleberry. And I love this mold. I think it makes the most beautiful soaps. And if you have a guest room or a powder room, or if you just like your soap in really cute shapes, this is a really good mold for that. I just scrape out all of the soap and then I put it into these molds. Then I get a beautiful Monstera leaf soap. I had a little bit more extra, so I'm trying these guys too. This is a big experiment. We'll see how these turn out. Oh my god, that is so freaking cute. Look at this tiny little rabbit soap. This one has a ton of detail in it, so I'm a little nervous. If you guys are curious about these molds, I'll have a link to them down below in case you also want to make some really cute, interestingly shaped soaps. This one could be a fail though. These are cold process soaps. You don't have to make bars, you can make actual shapes with them too. I am so pleased with how the soap turned out, and even though I said that the cherry blossom soap was probably the prettiest soap I've ever made, I actually think I like this one much more. I'm more partial to purple and yellow, even though this color is more of a gold color. I know there are so many die-hard lilac fans, so if you are one or if you know of anyone, this soap is perfect. I'm also really pleased with the new recipe and the process and how smooth everything went. As I mentioned, I use a higher percentage of tallow, and I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but it turned out perfectly fine. And if you are a patron of mine, you don't have to be at the $20 tier. You can be at the $5 tier. You get the recipe and the steps and the blog posts and also access to me, a guaranteed way to get an answer from me quickly. That's all on my Patreon. And if you're curious, there's a link to that down below. My cherry blossom soap, the full size bar, is sold out within the first week. I don't know how this one is going to go, but I think it's going to be pretty popular. And if it continues to do that, I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to produce more, how I'm going to be able to fit that into my schedule, but I'll probably figure it out. And I'm ready for the challenge. So far, April has been an incredibly good month for sales, and I do think this is a good sign for the coming year. I'm really, really excited about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed spending time with me in my studio. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like or leave a comment down below, or even if you have feedback, whether it's positive or negative, I welcome it all. Don't forget to leave that down below. And until the next video, keep smiling, keep being awesome, and keep making beautiful things like lilac violet soap. Bye, guys.